All right. Thanks for tuning in at the last second here for a very exciting but somewhat impromptu session today with the legendary drummer. You know him best as the brother of Jerry Marotta, but I know him as Rick Marotta, and I'm going to welcome Rick Marotta to Live from My Drum Room. Uh, Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We are actually going to talk about some songs, some music today. With Rick is staying here with us for a couple of days, and I wasn't going to let him get away without getting him on the air for a few minutes to talk about a few of his many legendary recordings. So thanks for being here, pal.
My pleasure. It's not really. I've done this under protest.
I know you do this under
I
protest.
feel like I'm on a press junket today. I just would like to say that I just shot an episode, a segment in Boston of a show for my really good friend Phil Rosenthal called Somebody Feed Phil, where we just had lunch at a place called Neptune Oysters in Boston. That was phenomenal. And I'm in a sort of a food coma right now. And then Johnny said, let's go do a podcast while you're half out of it.
Yeah. So, and here we are.
Here we are.
And Rick, being the sport that he is, he gladly obliged, even though I think he'd rather probably just relax and take a nap. But we're going to talk about a couple of songs here, and I'm glad it's coming through loud and clear. I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with Rick's discography. We've done a couple of these track talks with, of course, Peg. I think we did one on Don't Take Me Alive. We did the Boz Scaggs song that I love so much.
That song was
yeah.
on you. I had not thought about that in a while. And when you started talking about it, I started listening to it some more and more. I didn't even know that Steve Lukather played guitar on it because I thought when we did the original pass on Danger Breakdown Dead Ahead, I thought Michael Thompson was on the session, and it was Luke. Oh boy, what a guitar song.
Yeah, great. Well, great song. Great drum part.
Yeah,
but right now we're going to talk about a song that's from, I think, around that same time frame. I want to say it's maybe 1980, Jackson Browne's Boulevard. And should we set it up with the little story that goes with this, or do you want to listen to the track first?
Well, I will tell a little bit of a story. On this particular track, working with Jackson, who I like very much. We were very close back then. We worked a lot together on Jackson stuff, but we worked a lot on the Ronstadt stuff. He would come in certainly on Warren Zevon's music and a bunch of other albums in the LA genre, that sort of LA Mafia thing back in the 70s and 80s. We worked together a lot. The only thing with Jackson for me was when I worked with Jackson, or anyone that worked with Jackson, this is not a slam on Jackson at all. It was that when you work with Jackson, you don't do 2 or 3 takes. It's a little bit like Steely Dan, only I don't know really that much, but we just did a lot of takes. And this particular time we're working on Jackson's record, and I had been working so much and partying so much that I want to be delicate about this, but I hadn't been sleeping very much at all, and I showed up, and we ran the song a couple of times, and I said I'm not gonna. I was a little belligerent, and I said it was only out of out of fatigue. I said I'm not gonna keep playing the song all day long, and somebody said, well, we'll get it. We'll get our parts, because I knew what I was going to play. I thought I knew. We'll get our parts, and then you come in, we'll do it. So I just said, I'm not playing this, and I'm not going to keep playing this until I've run out of ideas. So I went in the back room, and literally, I think we were at Record One or at Sound Factory. They were both the same studio, basically, in LA. And I went in the back room, probably Record One, and went in the back room and got on the couch, passed out, out cold. And I could hear them in the other room for a minute, and then I fell asleep. And a little while later, I feel this a little while, now a couple hours later, I feel this little poke in my shoulder. And I look up, and it's the incomparable Carla Bonoff, one of the great songwriters, singers of all time, and artists, and an incredible person. And everybody loved her. And I look up and I see Carla poking me in the shoulder, and she says, "Ricky, Jackson would like to do a take." And I see behind her head is, I'm looking up and her head is here, and I see him stick his head around like this. And I go, okay. And I walked into the studio, everybody knew their parts. And I walked in, played it twice, I believe it was twice, and left. So I'm going home. I pulled a page out of Jeff Porcaro's book, and God bless him. And I'm proud of it. But Jackson was beside himself. He was so pissed off. He was just really, really angry and mad at me, of course, again. And I went home and I realized, well, I really do need to sleep because I passed out in there. I'm going home to bed. And then a couple of months later, I see Jackson. Well, I saw him a couple of times before that, and he was just so mad at me. I see him a couple of months later, and he said, you know, I tried recutting Boulevard, but I just couldn't get it the way I wanted it. So we used your track, and I'm really pissed about it.
That's the best part of the story.
He was really pissed that he couldn't get it any better than we did. And I have to say that if I had played it 30 or 40 times, it wouldn't have been as good. But when you listen to that track, like I listen to it now because you brought it up, and I listened to it, and I think it's a great track, great song.
Great song.
It's on fire. It
Yeah.
feels fiery to me. And I just know that I didn't want to wring the life out of the song. It's just my way. I do it with my own stuff even now. I could sometimes overthink things now when it's in my studio and I'm working on it and I'm playing on it. I have to check myself and go, you know what? You've made too many other people miserable in your life. Don't do it to yourself.
I get 2 points to make about this. This is great. You told me this story many, many years ago because I happened to mention it out to dinner one night how much I love the song. You told me this great story about it. A few years later, I don't know how many years later, at Yamaha Groove Night, Groove All Stars, you got Jackson to come up and play one of the shows. And Jackson is doing the song Boulevard, and he intros the song by saying, he tells the whole story Rick just told. He said, he's like tuning his guitar, he's like looking down, he's going, Rick played on this song originally. And Russ Kunkel's up behind the drums to play. Russ is playing that night, and you're standing off to the side, and he said, Rick recorded this originally, and he only did one take. I couldn't get him to do another take. And you could tell it still kind of bugged him.
Oh, yeah, definitely still bugged him.
And then when we saw James Taylor a few years after
that. I want to just stop. So I want to say that James, that when we did that, what happened that night was that Groove All Stars was Joe Testa and myself.
Yes.
Joe and I were the guys that we produced that show with Yamaha. And Yamaha gave us a lot of leeway with artists and things like that. And what happened was we get a call that day, and somebody says, it's Jackson Browne on the phone, and he wants to come to the show tonight.
Right.
And it's a big show. It was at Cerritos. And I said, wait, Jackson's on the phone? Oh, yeah, that phone. So Jackson, I go, it's Rick Marotta. What are you doing there? I go, Jackson, this is my show. He goes, I want to bring this. Now, listen, this is a great, great human being.
Yeah.
And he was working with some kids in maybe in the South Central LA or somewhere, and he wanted to bring them to a show. And this is Jackson does this kind of thing all the time.
Yeah.
He wanted to expose them to the stage, music, a show, and things like that. I wanted to bring them to the show and at the NAMM show. And so I said, Of course you could come to the show. You're done. You're set. Whatever kids you want to bring. There's one little thing. How would you like to do a song? He goes, really? Okay. I said, what do you want to do? He went, I think I'd like to do Boulevard. And I think he did Boulevard because he
Yeah.
could tell the
You
story.
can tell that story.
And
Absolutely.
then you were saying that when we went to
So,
James,
so we went to see James Taylor some years later. Rick was on the Vineyard at his place on the Vineyard. And we went up to Boston to see our friend Steve Gadd playing with James Taylor, and Jackson Browne was opening the show. So we go back before the show to go have dinner, and I feel like we walked right into Jackson. Like Jackson was coming out of the green room or something, catering, and he sees you and goes, "Oh, geez, oh, for crying out loud!" And then he starts saying, I think he said to James or to Steve or somebody.
Steve,
Yeah, Steve, he said, this guy, he would only do one take of Boulevard. It was like,
but he also that same day we were talking to him, and Steve was standing there, and so I said, the first time I played with Jackson was not on Boulevard. It was in New York, and they called to do the session, and I was in New York City, and he called to do the session. And I have to say, I've always been a major Jackson Browne fan.
Yeah. Love him.
My girlfriend, one of my first girlfriends, we worked in the business at Atlantic Records. And she said to me one day, let's go to see this new artist we just signed. Okay, sure. I was going to a lot of shows then. We went down to the Bitter End in New York City. Now, the Bitter End holds maybe 60, 80 people at the time.
Yeah.
And we had seats. Olga got us these seats, and we sat right in I'm sitting here, she's sitting here, and right here in front of me, spitting on me while he's singing, is Jackson Browne, that far away. And I look up at him singing. I had no idea who he was. He was just by himself. There was no band, and he was just doing this gig sort of as a sort of a promo for his album, which was coming up, Doctor My Eyes, and whatever that first album was. And he's this far, and I look at her, this beautiful Greek woman, and I look up at him, look at her, and I go, I know why you wanted to bring me here. I even want to go out with him. He's so pretty.
He
was a pretty boy.
He was
so
still
a
is.
while after that, I get a call, few years, I guess. I get a call. Now Jackson's a big star, and Jackson Browne session, New York City record plant. The only catch is session's going to start at midnight. And I don't like that kind of stuff, but it's Jackson Browne. I am dying to do this. I'm going to do it. Tony Levin on bass. Wow. The reason we were doing it at midnight was because they wanted Tony and I to play, because Tony and I were working a lot together at that time. And they wanted, Little Feat was doing a gig in town. So Lowell George and Billy Payne were playing on the sessions.
Okay.
So it's Billy Payne from Little Feat, Lowell George from Little Feat, Tony Levin, bass, Rick Marotta, drums, Jackson Browne. And we go into the room, and the first thing I hear, we start, and I'll always remember sessions this way, like, don't take me alive. I remember the very first words out of Donald's mouth in my ears. And we're sitting on, they start the song, everybody starts playing. It's around 12:31 in the morning. Everybody shuffles in, and we start playing. And the first thing I hear is, I'm sitting down by the highway, down by that highway sign. And as the song went on, I was just thinking, this is unbelievable.
Yeah.
And we must have played it all night long. Cut to a little while later, record comes out, and I'm nowhere near on the track. Tony's not on the track. I don't think Lowell or Billy was on the track. Jackson had done what Donald and Walter did, and what Jackson did, and what a lot of guys did was he cut it with multiple bands.
Yeah.
And so when we saw him 20-something years later, 30 years later, at the James Taylor gig at Fenway, and we're talking to him, just to rub it in, he said, we were talking about it, and I was talking like that about it with sort of adoration and saying, I heard this sitting down by the highway. That was the first time that I played with Jackson, and Jackson turns to me and to you and Steve Gadd, who's standing right next to us, and says, you know, you weren't first call on this. He said, we tried to get Steve Gadd, but Steve was busy. And I turned and I look at Steve, and Steve goes, and it's a thing with Jackson. I realize Jackson had this thing every once in a while. Whatever we could do to try to sort of zest the other guy, and he got me really big with that one. I don't know if it's true
he's
or
paying you
just
back.
said it. Yeah, it's big payback.
He's paying you back. No, that's great. But nobody could have. Well, obviously, Boulevard, the song we're going to play in a second. I think he had Keltner do it, or Russ Kunkel, or
Russ did it.
Russ did it.
I know Russ did it.
And Russ is no slouch, but
God,
but
Russ
it had the magic when you did it, and it sure does when you listen to it.
Magic if Russell did it or if Keltner did it, certainly. But you know, it was Jackson's choice, as it always is for the artist and the producer.
Yeah.
And anyway.
Okay, we'll play it. I do want to give a quick shout out to Dave Abraziz, drummer for Pearl Jam, who's watching right now under an assumed name. Dave, I love your name, Free Ass Records. Oh, Dave.
Are you kind of outing him? Yeah, maybe he doesn't want his name.
No, he said Dave Abraziz here because he wanted to say hi to both of us.
I'm a fan, tell him.
Yeah, you just did.
Tell him,
yeah, you just did, and I am too. And Dave will be on this show eventually, and sooner than later. We got to make that happen, Dave. We've been talking about it. So hang tight for 1 second, folks. I'm going to play the song Boulevard from Jackson Browne, the Holdout record. And I want to say the year was around 1980. We can confirm that. But here it comes. The great Rick Marotta on drums.
Such disregard. They say it can't be won the way the game is run. But if you choose to stay, you wind up playing anyway. It's everybody walks right by like they're safe or something. They don't know. Nobody knows you. Nobody owes you nothing. Nobody shows you what they're thinking. Nobody. Hey, baby, got to watch the street and keep your feet.
Here's that shaker.
Make it pay, baby.
I played that.
It's all the time on the boulevard.
Can't run it
It's
out.
like this.
This is a drum.
I mean, it's the way it is. Yeah, baby. It's all the time on the
All right. How about that song? Wow. So much energy. The drums were just driving that song. Rick, a couple of questions that popped up. And I have a question. So you mentioned Carla Bonoff. That's her singing the backup vocals.
I don't think so. I'm
No.
not sure. I think it might be Rosemary.
Oh,
But-
okay. I think,
But I really
yeah.
don't know for sure. I'd have to look at the credits, but Rosemary sang pretty much everything that he did. Um,
That's right. Yeah. I think I did know that now that you say that. Okay.
but Carla was around, probably Carla was doing her record in the next room.
Yep.
Because we worked on her record as well.
Gotcha. Okay. A couple of questions from the audience watching. I think it was George Sandler asked, do you remember what drums you used on that particular song?
If I were to guess, because that was in LA, I would probably be using my road kit at the time, which was either my black recording series kit or Yamaha
Yep.
recording series, or my Sunburst kit, which I don't think it was that kit, but the Sunburst kit had thinner ply wood, and I would get a lot of resonance. I still have that kit. I used it on a James Taylor tour and a Linda tour, but I'm pretty sure it sounds like my Tubby recording series kit, that black Yamaha recording series kit, one of the early kits. And it had what also you have to understand is the drum sound that those guys got I don't even know who the engineer was. It could have been Val Garay, it could have been Nico Bolas, it could have been Jim Kniper. They were guys that worked in that studio back then, but the drum sound, those tubs, I love that sound. So that would make me play a certain way. Sometimes when I played on different kits in New York at the A&R 7th Avenue, I wouldn't get that tubby sound, and it would make me play a different way.
Yeah. Yep. The song was recorded in 1980. And just I won't say my vast knowledge, but my knowledge of Yamaha drums, I want to say it would be an early recording custom because I think they really didn't make their way into the States till about 82, 81, 82, but you probably had a kit before that.
Steve and I had,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Steve Gadd and I had the first recording series kits because Steve had gone to Japan just before I did. And
Right.
he brought a kit over that I had drilled out the 8 and a 10 on the toms you could only get single-headed toms back then.
Right.
And
Small toms, yeah.
for small toms on the concert toms. And so I went into I just started up. I went down to Frank Ippolito's drum shop. I bought the casters and everything and the lugs and some heads, and I put in bottom heads. Steve went to Japan, came back from Japan, and Steve called me and he said, "We are endorsing Yamaha drums now." I said, "We are?" He goes, "Yep." I said, "Well, how'd that happen?" He goes, "Well, I was just there, and he said, I've already picked out your drums when you get there." And sure enough, I was going like 3
Yeah.
weeks later
Yeah.
to Japan, and I get there, and when I get there, the guy from Yamaha met me at the airport.
Was it
with
Hagi?
the band. It was Hagi.
Hagi, Mr.
And then
Hagawara. Yeah.
Hagi met me, and we went to the rehearsal, and in the rehearsal hall where we was a set of kids, the set of drums with fiber cases with my name on them, and he said to me, "These are your drums." And Steve had basically, they modeled them after the drums that Steve brought over there that I had worked on in his apartment, that bum. Because I went to Steve's also and did the same thing. He liked the sound of it, so I started drilling holes in his drums. I should have drilled holes so the whole hit fell when he went on stage. I never learned my lesson.
Bill Sabia is asking if you recorded to a click track back then,
I'm pretty sure. I can't say specifically. Yeah, I would think yes.
probably.
I would
Yeah.
think yes.
All right. Well, that's I want to move on to another song. We can do that. We have time. We have all the time we need.
I'm thinking Waddy with Martell was on that, right? Because I don't think I
Yeah.
did very much without Waddy.
You know what? I will tell you. I'm going to look up the track personnel.
That drum part sounds like something Jackson would write though. Da, 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 da. That sounds like something Jackson would come up. He's very, but so's Waddy. I mean, Waddy,
Yeah. Yep.
it's Waddy.
Tell you in 1 second.
Waddy and Jackson.
Personnel. Dave Lindley, electric guitars. Bob Glob on bass.
Monster.
Russ is on drums. You're on drums. Danny Korchmar. I'm not seeing Waddy listed here
Huh.
on this record, Rick.
Oh, that's interesting. I gotta call Waddy and ask.
Track.
Anyway, what's next?
All right. I thought we would skip on down the road to a song that Waddy definitely played on with you. Lawyers, Guns, and Money.
Talk about Lawyers.
Not on Live from My Drum Room, just many times, you and me.
Oh.
But one of my absolute favorite songs that you just so happen to play on, the great Warren Zevon, who
One of my favorites too, because of the great Warren Zevon. I really loved Warren. I mean, I miss him all the time.
I know you. I remember us having dinner in LA when Warren was sick, and I just remember how distraught you were. You were just really just.
I couldn't even talk
Yeah.
to him. It was so bad. I had this problem, and Warren was dying, and we had spent so much time together on the road and hanging out. We were supposed to actually write together. He wanted to write some film stuff with me and some TV stuff, and we didn't get the chance because he was taken too soon.
Yeah.
And Waddy would call me, and he would tell me how things had progressed, and it was hard. But I mean, that's just that.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
This is,
Yeah.
this is Lawyers, Guns, and Money was another one of. I'm sure you all know. If you know who I am, you know who Warren Zevon is, and he's one of the great songwriters, singers that I ever worked with, and I've worked with a lot of great ones. The thing about Warren was there was an intellect and a sense of humor. I remember he used to talk about Hunter S. Thompson all the time. It was one of his favorite people. And Warren would write like those kind of crazy stories into a song.
Yeah.
Like Lawyers, Guns, and Money. When you listen to this 3-minute song and what he says in it, it's poor pitiful me, hasten down the wind.
Werewolves of London.
Werewolves of London. Come
Yeah,
on, man.
I know. It's
and just Muhammad's Radio, Roland the Headless Thompson Gunner, Bad Luck Streak and Dancing School, bang, 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 bang. And Warren would say to me, sometimes he'd say, let's write something together. Okay. He'd say, just give me a title. What? You have the best song titles of anyone I ever met in my life. Just give me a title and we'll write to it. We'll write a song. Because I remember when I first was working with Warren, we were walking down the street once to go to dinner. This was at Sound Factory, and we were walking around the corner to this Thai restaurant on Selma, I think, or Cahuenga. And I said, Warren, how did you come up? Because I had listened to this Hasten Down the Wind that Linda had done, and I had been working with Linda before that, and so I'd listened to a bunch of Linda stuff to get a feel of what this is when I first started working with her, what she was all about as a singer, and I just listened to the song called Hasten Down the Wind that she did, so written by Warren Zevon, and I just thought it just was amazing and beautiful.
Yeah.
So I said to Warren, we're walking to dinner, and I said, Warren, and I really didn't know him that well. We were just starting to work together. I said, Warren, I got to ask you, where did you ever come up with that Hasten Down the Wind? He said, well, he said, I was in a breakup, I was in a relationship and we were breaking up, and I was thinking all the different ways that you take a hike, beat it, get out of my life, hasten down the wind. And I just thought, my God, that's how you come up with these. I just still think that Hasten Down the Wind, I still sometimes I'll just be thinking about great songs and I just think of that title.
That's a great, yeah. I mean, all like,
Lawyers, Guns and Money. I mean, every single song title that we once were gonna write something. It was me, him, Waddy, might have been Bobby Glaub or Lee Sklar, and I think maybe JD Souther was there. We were trying to come up with a song, and we were in the studio, and we started playing a shuffle. It's really, really deep, slow gut bucket shuffle, and Waddy, everybody playing great, and Warren just started singing the Pope of Rome, dun, 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 Pope of Rome, dun, 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 dun. He wears a cap, dun, 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 the Pope of Rome. 20 minutes later, we're still playing dun, dun, Pope of Rome. Dun, 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 dun. He wears a robe, and I said, "We're not getting anywhere with this song, really, are we?" It was just, he said,
yeah.
it's the Pope of Rome is a great title for a song, but we're never coming up with anything good
Yeah.
for Pope of Rome. But that's how songs, I guess that's how great songs are made and
Yeah.
not made.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, this is definitely one of the great songs. And it just everything about this, the groove, what you play in this song, it's just, it's to me, it's the classic Rick Marotta behind the beat. Just so it's the feel is just incredible. And it's such a great song. So we're going to listen to it and we'll talk a little bit more about it afterward. Here comes Lawyers, Guns and Money. This is actually from 1978, so a couple of years before Boulevard. Here it comes.
I went home with the waitress, the way I always do. How was I to know she was with the Russians too? I was gambling in Havana. I took a little risk. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this. Ha! I'm the innocent bystander. Somehow I got stuck between the rock and the hard place, and I'm down on my luck. Yes, I'm down on my luck. Well, I'm down on my luck. I'm hiding in Honduras. I'm a desperate man. Send lawyers, guns, and money. The shit has hit the fan. All right, send lawyers, guns, and money. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Hey! Send lawyers, guns, and money. Oh! Yeah.
Like this little marching thing you do right there. All right. I just want to say a quick hello to our friend Charlie Drayton, who's also watching. CD, great to see you.
Charlie,
Charlie, we love you.
well, I'd like to see you sometime. I think you're in Australia right now,
Yeah.
but Charlie Drayton is so great, such a great musician. It's funny, just want to say, Charlie, I was watching something on YouTube a couple of days ago, and I was just scrolling through some things. Can't remember why, and up comes the Winos. And it was so rocking, and you were playing drums, and I was noticing how just how great the groove was. And I think that Steve was playing bass, Lonnie was playing guitar. Um,
Who's the other guitar player in the Winos? The other guy besides Waddy.
Keith,
Keith.
what's his last name?
I don't know. Who knows?
And Ivan Neville. What a
Yeah.
band.
Yeah.
It's maybe one of my favorite bands, and it was a lot of it was due to Charlie and Steve both trading off, going back and forth, bass and drums, and just killing it. And I have to mention also that Charlie, I used to work for Charlie's dad, and I remember we were doing a commercial. His dad would produce commercials, and I'm playing drums, and I sit pretty low, and I'm playing, and I turn around and I look, and there's this kid standing next to me. I'm sitting down on my drum stool. He's about this tall. Looking at me like this. And he's got a pair of drumsticks in his pocket. And I go, "Can you go away?" And he goes, "No, I'm gonna stay right here." It was Charlie Drayton as a little boy.
I love that.
His parents were so supportive of him, and look what it turned out, a great musician all around.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
turned something on one day, and I'm watching the guitar player from Aerosmith live,
Oh, Joe Perry?
Joe Perry.
Yeah.
And I look over, and it's Charlie playing bass, killing it.
Yeah. Great bass player. Great.
Anyway, it's good
Yeah.
to see you, Charlie.
Great.
I hope I see you back here soon.
Yeah, Charlie. We send our love to you. Safe travels down under. And Rick, just about that song too. Just I mentioned the feel. It's just such a great groovy, feely song. I mean, was that something you guys did you do it a couple of times, a couple of takes?
Yeah.
You did a couple of takes.
But so at this point, I had been working with Waddy, who produced that album,
Yeah.
that record, Waddy, for a year or two. And so I come from New York, I come to LA, and something happened. They bring Don Grolnick and I in to play with Linda Ronstadt. Peter Asher brought us in. Peter knew me from earlier James Taylor stuff, and they were looking to change something up in Linda's band, and brought in the two New Yorkers, me and Don Grolnick. And Waddy was the guitar player, and it was Linda's band. And Peter was very instrumental, very instrumental in directing the band.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Waddy was a leader. Waddy's a born leader.
Yeah.
And he would always take over. So Waddy, I remember we start playing, and I come from New York, where everything is the bass drum and the bass play together.
Yeah.
So I'm used to playing with Chuck Rainey, Jerry Jamot, Tony Levin, Will Lee, those guys, and a bunch of other guys. Anthony Jackson, one of the best bass players ever lived. And I'm used to that constant conversation, looking at each other, knowing we're playing together.
Yeah.
It's punch, 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 boom, pump, pump, pump. Waddy says to me two things. We're running down some stuff with Linda Ronstadt's, whatever it was, we're working on the album. I don't remember what song it was. Waddy comes over to me, sidles over to the drums, and he looks over at me and he says, "I'm from New York." I said, "Yeah, really? Yeah, I'm from New York." He says, "In New York, you play a lot of 16th notes. Here in California, we don't play a lot of 16th notes." He's talking about on the bass note.
Yeah.
And I go, "Okay." And I'm really like, I do what I want to do, but I'm not going to, this was a really good gig and just there. So I said, "Well, what are you thinking?" He goes, "I'll tell you what, let's just simplify it. No 16 notes. And so it started this other thing where I'm learning playing simpler. I'm already very, very simple, but we
Yeah,
were playing
yeah.
at Kells back then, and there was a lot of rocking and a lot of
Sure,
almost
yeah.
fusion going on. Not
Yeah.
exactly fusion, but very funky. John Chopin and all these guys. So I said, okay, I'm going to stick closer to eighth notes. Eighth notes. He comes over a little while later and he goes, Kenny Edwards was a great bass player playing bass. And Kenny would play boom, 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 something like that. And I would play and play along with him. And Marty would say, sometimes when Kenny plays the upbeat, don't play the upbeat. Just play the downbeat. And when Kenny plays the downbeat, don't play the downbeat. Just play the upbeat. I'm thinking, what the hell is this guy talking about? Okay. And sure enough, it evolved into this kind of approach where I would listen to the bass, and a lot of times Waddy and I would discuss. It was sometimes you hear it's so simple. You listen to it, you go, it's such a simple part. Any moron could play that part. I've heard many people call me a moron as a drummer.
No.
So, but
Not to your
Waddy,
face.
a lot of this goes to Waddy, and I attribute a lot to Chuck Rainey and a lot to Dave Spinoza. But I got to say, on these songs, on these records, Waddy kind of would come to me and he and I would discuss. Sometimes we wouldn't even, the bass player would just play what he's playing. And he would say, okay,
Yeah.
over here, maybe play these upbeats with him. But over here, don't play the upbeat. Let him play that. So that's what would work. So when I listened to Lawyers, Guns, and Money, back to this conversation of this simple little part, in Lawyers, I remember occasionally I would play a 16th note. And I remember Waddy occasionally would look over at me like, what's that about? And I remember when he played it back, when we were listening back after we did the take, Waddy turned to me and say, you played some 16 notes in there. It's okay. I'm going to leave them. But we don't need too many more of those 16 notes. But I listened to it and I think to myself, how did I get away with that?
Yeah.
Because it would just worked because there was some sort of 16 notes came in.
You're talking about in the beginning of the song, I feel like there's a part, you're talking about your bass drum.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
bass drum only.
Bass drum only. The beginning of the song, I can replay it. I know exactly where you mean too. And I can't hear the song any other way than with those 16th, that little section where you go, went home with a waitress the way I always do.
A lot of times I hit the upbeat and don't hit the down.
Yeah.
Or
Boom, boom,
boom,
boom.
boom. Instead of boom, boom, it's
Yeah.
So this is a silly conversation. This is a drummer's. Everybody else is probably going to throw their.
No,
computers
we
against
got
the wall.
drummers watching right now.
But there are times when I just like in songs like this, I love the idea of not finishing the drum part. And in other songs, I like the idea of playing through and across the bar line.
Yes.
That's all. I don't want to over talk about this,
Yeah.
analyze this stuff. It's just silly.
Well,
it's just a drum.
I do want to comment just again and just say that the fills at the end, I'm curious to know, did you change, like if you did a few takes, did you kind of play them differently each take just to kind of?
I tried to, but I'm not that creative. I tried to change them as much as I could, but if I locked into a couple, like I know I was thinking about, there was a march in there somewhere.
Yeah,
I knew I had to do that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of times when I play a lot of these kind of songs, I know I'll forget the downbeat and play the fills starting in the middle of the bar.
Yeah.
Or on an upbeat somewhere, and then play through the bar line if I can, just to make it feel a little bit sort of off kilter without feeling like it's on like you're limping through a song. But I never planned them out. And we toured for a long time. We toured with that band, and we would play them every night. And I never tried to really copy the fills from the record. I just went with the flow every night when we played them, and it was fun. I always liked that idea. Some I did try to play, some fills that I there's a couple in there that are kind of signature fills, and for the song, I still to this day, if I have to play them, I try to play those. But the other ones, I just try to, a couple of those little things at GAD that showed me a little kind of
Yeah.
fills. I would throw those in there and
Well, what I love about that, those fills at the end is each one is unique from the other. And it's just, it's
hmm,
perfect. I mean, they're just all perfect. The first one, that big kind of open one, blah, boom, boom, and it sets up the rest of them. Like that first one is, you could say maybe the simplest of all of them, but it's so big and it fills it so well. And then the next ones you play, you're definitely playing some other stuff that's not as simple.
hmm.
It's just it's. I always enjoyed that hearing those fills at the end of that song.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah.
I'm glad you enjoy it. Good. I'm glad. I like when people enjoy that.
Yeah,
stuff.
I know you do. I know. And you're a
It's hard
humble.
for me to talk about it a lot and be serious about it, but I'm trying my best.
Well, I'm going to play one more song. I think we have time for one more, and I think people will stick around for it. I just want to make sure there are no other questions maybe that I should just quickly ask you before we move along here. Bill Sabia has another question. How often did producers write out a drum part for you to play? Maybe just as a general question, you could answer that. Was that?
It really,
It
really
varied, right?
varied.
Yeah.
On those records, never. On Jackson, Warren, James, Linda, never. We all worked those songs out in the room together. If I walked into a session where there was an orchestra in the room or something like that, and you're in the hot seat and it was written, and I don't read like Gad or Vinnie Colaiuto or Keith Carlock or a zillion other guys, but I could get my way through them because I learned in recording in doing jingles and in working with Dave Spinoza a lot in my early years. I learned how to read that way. And I don't think there are a lot of great drummers that didn't have, the charts were maps generally. If you
Yeah.
had a chart, it would be a map. And generally they would say, really smart producers would put something in front of you and say, here's a map. Don't follow it. Just shows you where the DSs are, the repeats are, the code assign. If you could understand that, sometimes once in a while, guys like Leon Pendarvis would write a fill. He did this to me and Steve Jordan. We would play at McKell's and then we'd show up on a session for Pendarvis that week. And he'd write these really intricate drum parts. And I go, I can't play that. And I think the same thing happened to Steve Jordan. And he'd say to me, Rick, that fill you played on stage at McKell's 2 nights ago, I went right to the back room and wrote it out so I would remember it, and I wrote it, and he sang it to me and I could play it. So, I mean, on those records, those parts were never written out. Sometimes you'd see a backbeat, a downbeat, a backbeat, 2/8 notes, a backbeat. That would be it. Once in a while, you'd see mostly hits, you'd see an 8th note tied in over to the next bar, or 16th note tied over to the next bar, a dotted quarter note figure so that you could know that you're just playing dotted quarters. And that, for me, guys like Vinny and Steve and Steve and all these other guys, and they would they could really make their way through these other very intricate drum parts. Very quickly, I'll tell you a story. I was working in LA.
Yeah.
I was doing some sessions for this producer arranger, and he wrote out every note, and we'd play it. And I remember I was with Neil Steubenhaus playing bass, great bass player. And we'd play it, and I turned to Neil, and I said, Neil, every time we do these, thank God they were only a minute long jingles for this particular guy. We do these things, and they're these lush orchestra things, and they're great, but the rhythm section sounds just so cheesy. And he'd write the fills, we'd have to play the fills, and it bothered me. So I said to Neil one day, I said, Neil, I'm gonna go talk to the guy. I don't know, I was gonna mention his name. And I talked to him and I said, listen, we got this. So why don't you let Neil and I just play the groove? It's only a minute long, 30 seconds long. Let us play the groove. And let us do what we think we should do. And let me play the fills I think I should play. So we went in and we played it, and it was rocking. It felt great. It was really great. We finished it. He went, played him back. Played his piece of crap. Played ours. Rockin'. He said, "Oh, I really like mine better."
I knew you were going to say that.
And I said, "Okay." And it really bothered me. And Neil said to me, "Rick, worry about it." Next thing you know, Vinny was doing sessions for the guy because I said, "I can't do this anymore." It was just painful.
Yeah,
But some guys are
yeah.
just better at it. And Vinny could make anything feel great.
yeah, yeah. Well, so can you. So can, Steve and all the guys we're talking about right now. But yeah, I was going to say, I would think that when somebody hires you to do, they give you the roadmap, but they're going to leave it to you to
Yeah.
to put in, all the fills and all the ideas that you have. That's just
Yeah.
why they hire you. So
Yeah, I think that was the thing. I think there are certain guys you really, for me, if you hired me to play on your record, you weren't hiring me to do the same thing that
right,
a Broadway drummer could do
right,
brilliantly. You were hiring me to be my personality. It's like I always tell Johnny, and we talk about this a lot. Actors, I'm an actor. You give me a piece of music, to me, it's a script. There could be 5 actors, drummer actors behind me. We're all going to play.
Yep.
My objective was to play that piece of music and create a character for that piece of music. I know it sounds crazy because I'm hitting
No,
sticks, dropping on sticks, dropping on skins. But when I could create a character, I would think of a character. I'm going to create this character, musical character, who's going to dance through this song. And that's what it was going to be. That was what I think my strength was. Other guys' strength is sitting down, reading note for note, everything that's there verbatim and making it feel good as could be on the page. And it's a talent. I've seen it myself when I went into the pit with Dave Spinoza on a couple of Broadway shows when he was playing Broadway, and they brought me into the pit and I sat with the drummer and watched them. These guys, I marveled at what they did.
amazing.
Verbatim.
Yeah.
Verbatim.
Yeah.
Every note was written, but they made the note on the page work.
Yeah.
Playing it. I would do it and I would go, okay, I'm going to interpret this a little differently. Mostly fills. When it comes to groove stuff, if you can really play a groove, you can make almost anything work. But when it comes to filling, guys like Charlie's here. Charlie knows, anybody who's watching this that's a drummer. I think John Ferraro's watching.
Yeah.
Guys know, they know what they're doing. They know when it comes to a transition, that's a big part of a song. The songs that we're listening to here today, I think you have to understand transitions. A friend of ours, a very good friend of John's and mine, is a drummer. He plays drums in his house all the time, and he tells everybody he's a drummer, comes and sits in, he's a furniture salesman. It's a great guy, very successful guy. But he plays okay, and then you get to a fill and there's I'm like, okay, you're just losing everything. One note in a fill, one note can say so much.
Yeah. I don't mean to laugh. Yes.
Let's stop boring these.
No, I agree. And I'm glad you said hello to John Ferraro. I just saw that John Ferraro is watching, our friend and very good friend, great drummer. And also want to just read this comment, Rick, and this will be for a later episode, which we've talked about many times. You have a comment. Hi, Rick. Hi, John. Just want to say Rick is one of my favorite drummers of all time. And James Taylor's Hour That the Morning Comes is one of the best drum tracks. Love you, Rick. And that will warrant, I think, an entire show that we'll talk about that, because that's such a deep song.
I love that track. That's one of my favorites. That was one we'll talk about another time. That's a perfect example of trying to create a character and how I did it on that song. I mean, I noticed some people I feel a little silly. I know that some people really appreciate these conversations, and I try to be really detailed about it, more than I normally would be. And other people are like, who cares? It's just drums. But I'm just trying to let people know that, understand that what it takes to be to be happy for me is to feel like I'm contributing something. I can't play a lot of notes. I just can't. If someone says to me, play with these gospel chops and really fast all over the kit, it's just never been something that interested me. I admire it and I can enjoy it and I can watch it
course,
and think
yeah.
it's great, but it's not something that I ever aspired to. I love listening to a downbeat and a backbeat and a downbeat and a backbeat. You know, I'm hoping to do this gig in Savannah, Georgia in January. I'm trying to work it out that I can get there. Where Don Randy's going to go, and through this friend Jonathan Mover, who was kind of setting it up, putting it together with this man Thomas Claxton in Savannah, and they sent me some songs they wanted me to think about playing there, and one of them was "The Confessor" by Joe Walsh.
Right.
From the Confessor album, and I honestly, I hope it's me playing on it. But all it is a downbeat and a backbeat, downbeat and a backbeat. But when you got somebody like Joe and Waddy and whoever was playing bass, I wonder, I can't even remember who the bass player was. Might have been Bob or somebody like that.
I think I looked it up.
No, it might have been Rick Rosas. Rick,
I think it was Rick, the bass player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you got those guys. It's just, that's all you have to do. Downbeat and backbeat. I mean, listen to everything else. I don't care who's playing drums. If you put that in the slot and you put the backbeat in its slot, that's all you need. You could put a downbeat and a backbeat on a drum machine. Play that. Guys, play to it. You put a downbeat and a backbeat with somebody who has a good feel and where to place it, you're going to sound, it's going to elevate from a drum machine from here, it's going to go to here. And that's what I tried to do.
Yeah. No, that's great. I'm going to play one more song, and this is kind of a little bit of a departure from what we've been talking about, and it's an older song, and I picked this, Rick, because it's a song that people don't talk about this song. You know, people always want to ask you about Peg. They always want to talk about Don't Take Me Alive and all these Steely Dan songs you played on, but this is a song by Jim Croce. It's called "I Got a Name" from the "I Got a Name" record. And I think I only learned this was you a few years back. I realized it was you playing drums on this song, and you're playing brushes on it, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. Great song. Great. And again, it's one of those intangibles to explain it, but I just think all I can say is the feel of this song is just incredible. It really makes this song. So here's Jim Croce's "I Got a Name" from 1973.
Like the pine trees lining the winding road, I've got a name, I've got a name. Like a singing bird and the croaking toad, I've got a name,
Yes,
I've got a name.
show me a name.
And I carry it with me like my daddy did, but I'm living the dream that he kept here. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. Like a north wind whistling down the sky, I've got a song, I've got a song. Like the whippoorwill and the babies cry, I've got a song, I've got a song. And I carry it with me and I sing it loud. If it gets me nowhere, I go there proud. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. I could share it if you want me to. If you're going my way, I'll go with you. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by. Moving me down the highway, rolling me down the highway, moving ahead so life won't pass me by.
Man, what a great song. What a great arrangement too. I mean,
Yeah,
did he write all those arrangements?
yeah,
Jim
no,
Croce?
Terry Cashman and Tommy West. And I think Tommy played piano on those things, and I think Joe Mack played bass, if I remember correctly.
Okay. Yep.
And Maury played guitar, I'm pretty sure, and Jim played guitar. Yeah, you know, I heard it a few times. Actually, I think I was in a store or something and it came on the radio, but I'll tell you, that, just very quickly, that was 1973, very, very early on. That was influenced, for me, that was influenced by Russ Kunkel without question.
Yeah.
And then Andy Newmark. Because Russ, we had listened to Russ play on Fire and Rain and on James's album, Sweet Baby James. And I mean, Russ rewrote the book on playing drums for me.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
my mind, because of what he did on those tracks. He just, for me, it was just, we didn't do that where I was. And so Andy and I, because Andy started working with Carly Simon right away.
Mhm.
Andy and I talked about Russ, talked about that. And I knew Russ's work also from the Jim Carroll album I had done. He had done the first one. And Andy went to England to work on Carly's record and was playing drums. And I went over to hang out with them in London because, you know, I was just a kid and went over and hung out. And Andy and I stayed with the band, with Andy and the band and Carly, and we hung out. And Andy was playing brushes a lot on there. So when I got in with Jim Croce on this, Cashman and West, they let me do pretty much anything I wanted. And I remember saying, I don't remember, but I'm sure I said to them, I'd like to play drums. I'd like to play brushes on this. And we cut this, I'm almost positive we cut it at the old Hit Factory on 48th Street. And probably somebody like Harry Maslin was the engineer, because back then I listened with much more respect and to the drum sound, because I used to get crazy with the drum sounds, because I always felt like the California drum sounds and England drum sounds were better. That's why I kind of would leave town once in a while, because it was driving me nuts. We had these choked down drum sounds in New York, but those drums sounded really good to me. And
Yeah.
I'll tell you a funny, quick little aside story to this. I Got a Name. So I was, you know, I did the music to Everybody Loves Raymond, and I'm pretty friendly with Ray Romano all these years. And we play golf together a lot. So Ray called me this summer, last year,
I know this.
the winter, and he called me to go up to his place in, he has a place in Palm Springs to play golf for the weekend. And I go up and it's just me and Ray and his wife, Anna, very, very nice people. And Ray and I are going to play golf. So we play golf and we come back, and Ray's working on his movie Somewhere in Queens, which is a great movie, by the way. And I didn't do the music to it, but I did the music to Everybody Loves Raymond, but I didn't do the music to this movie. And Ray's we're in the living room and hanging out, and I'm doing something. He's on the computer. He said, I got to do a little editing and some testing on this, on the movie I'm doing. Okay. And he goes, have you ever heard of this guy, Jim Croce? And I said, wait, what? Yeah. What do you think of the idea of this song? I want to use it for the movie, for the main title and the end title. And he hits play, and it's dum, dum, dum. It's I Got a Name. And he plays it, and I go, he goes, what do you think? I don't say anything. He goes, what do you think? I said, Ray, you know who's playing drums on that, right? He goes, no. said, I'm playing drums. He goes, really? I said, yeah, as hard as you tried to keep me off your movie, I'm still on your movie. And he goes, well, I had good news and bad news for you. He said, I'm going to use the song, but we're not using that version. And sure enough, I went with him to the screening at Tribeca, and I went to the premiere with him because he said, I want you to come to the premiere. And I went to the premiere and screening, and the main title is a version of I Got a Name. And the end title is an acoustic, both great versions, acoustic, just a guy playing guitar and singing a totally different feel.
Yeah.
It was great. Neither of them were Croce, and he knocked me out of the movie.
Oh my God. Oh,
We should let these people go home.
all right. Well, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up, folks. I want to thank everybody for watching. We
The
will
only
do this
reason
again.
is we have nothing else to do. I'm staying here today for a couple of days, so you were stuck with us. We would be talking like this anyway.
That's right. That's right. I figured why not put it down on film. And you know, as Rick knows, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So I put him to work when he comes here. Charlie Drayton says, sitting beside you for so many sessions was invaluable in countless ways. Daily master classes surrounded by the greatest musicians and arrangers. Yeah, I'd love to do it all over again. Charlie Drayton.
Charlie is such a great.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all so much for watching today. And I know this is a last minute thing, so I thank you for jumping on and checking this out. This will be up on YouTube early next week. And so you can watch it and download the podcast and all that. So big hand for Rick Marotta, my buddy.
Big
Actually-
hand for John DeChristopher, my ex-buddy.
Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you all real soon. All right. Well, that's my show. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, leave me a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And remember, all podcasts are available on all the podcast platforms. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And a reminder that Live from My Drum Room t-shirts are available for $25 in the contiguous US. And I'm going to give you the Venmo information so that you can purchase one. And I want to take a moment and thank everyone who's bought one already. A reminder that 100% of the proceeds go toward a scholarship at the Percussive Arts Society, PAS. And you're supporting a great cause when you buy one of these shirts. So the Venmo information, if you're listening and not watching this on YouTube, it's at John-DeChristopher-2. You can also email me at livefrommydrumroom@gmail.com with any questions. All right, so thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Remember, no drummers are harmed on any show. And drummers, when in doubt, leave it out. I'll see you again real soon.